This is Create the Next from ProCFO Partners, where every week we explore strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help today's businesses put their financial picture in context.
Welcome back to Create the Next from ProCFO Partners. I am Chris Bentliff, and today I'm super excited because we're doing something kind of different. We're talking to one of the clients of ProCFO Partners. We're talking to Michelle Frame of Victus R's. And Michelle, what I understand is that you're a food scientist, which combines two of my favorite things, science and food. So how can we go wrong? But I can't wait to meet you. Tell us a little bit about Victus R's and the business that you run.
Absolutely. So I started the company 7 years ago after spending over 20 in corporate life, working on everything from ingredients to consumer food products. And we focus on, as my career did, on confectionery first. So more than anything, I'm a candy scientist, which is even more fun.
Oh my gosh, that's the most amazing thing. That's like if you could tell every kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would like to be a candy scientist, obviously.
Right? I'm like a superhero to 8-year-olds.
You are.
I've had to sign autographs and stuff on new products.
I love it.
So, as long as your 15 minutes of fame is good for, around 8-year-olds, and I have it.
It's a great audience. I like it.
It is a very enthusiastic audience. So that's excellent. So after 20 some years, and even before that, I knew that this is really what I wanted to do, which is help mid-sized companies, some small, some larger, but really my target is mid-sized companies who don't necessarily have their own R&D groups. So you have candy companies, most of whom were started as family companies. They're still family companies today. And they might have had one or two products, and now they're looking at it going, either we need to change those. And really, I started the company when the whole trans fat issue was really coming to a head. And we had companies saying, I absolutely agree. I need to get trans fat out. However, my product started in the 1980s and was developed with trans fat. And now I don't know what to do. And I'm going to go out of business if somebody doesn't help me. And I thought, wow, that's a really scary place for a company owner to be when I can solve that in a couple of weeks and have your product taste exactly the same and have it work great and have no trans fats. So that point is really when I decided to leave corporate life and start the lab. So what's very different for what we do and what my team does, as opposed to those who might work out of their homes, is that an at-home consultant can talk on the phone, give you some history and background on what they do. We have a lab in Chicago, and my lab is staffed with scientists that all have production experience. So the other competitive footprint might be either other labs or food ingredient companies such as flavor houses or ingredient mammoths, and they'll help you develop your product. Unfortunately, they're only going to do that if they are really sure you're going to have really big volumes of sales to them. And they're going to use all of their own ingredients, which is fine if they have enough ingredients. But to that kind of company, everything is a nail if you're a hammer, right?
Yeah.
So we want to do it differently and be your R&D development partner and really be your in-house development team that just doesn't take up space.
Wow.
So that's what we do. We work with a lot of different candy companies, food companies, snacks of whatever sorts, again, mostly confectionery, but we also do other sweets. We do sweet bakery items and then other snacks like, popcorns and things like that. So anything that's kind of shelf stable is what we have our expertise in.
I mean, there's so much that I'm just personally really interested or curious about. But one of those is what are some of the unique challenges that you face in interfacing with your clients and with these other companies where they have their own vision or creative vision or business objectives or business dysfunctions, timing, maybe there's seasonal aspects to what they're thinking or doing. There's a lot that their pressure might inform your approach to them. And I'm wondering how does that connect when you're working so closely with something that represents their brand so intimately?
So the way we do that is that we truly act like your in-house R&D team. So we become intimately involved with what is your goal, not only for the product. So what are the parameters around that? You want it red, you want it 3 grams, you want it whatever. All those pieces are important. But what's more important is, what is your vision? What's your vision for this product? What's your vision for the line? What's your vision for where you're going to be in 5 years? Are you looking at putting this into your own production facility? Are you looking for a co-manufacturer? Do you have a co-manufacturer? Are you using a co-manufacturer, but you want to buy your own equipment and start your own production plant? We're asking all those questions up front and first so that we know and understand what some of the hurdles may be. We stay very, very much connected to the industry as a whole, and that's both confectionery, sweet bakery, and the food industry. So we go to, pre-COVID anyway, we went to about 15 different association things, ranging from food technologists to candy technologists to the Sweet and Snacks Expo to a big candy show over in Germany that happens every year. And so we're going to a lot of different things. And then we're also going to executive type meetings where we're looking at what are store buyers saying? What are they looking for? What are their consumers looking for? We're reading Amazon reviews. So we go down into the weeds for that and just see in this market, whether it's gummy vitamins or whether it's a chocolate bar, what are folks saying? What are they asking for? Where are the trends at? So we're paying attention to all of that. So we're not just a pair of hands at a lab bench. We're a part of your development team. We're part of your full product team. And the other piece of that is that not only are we geared to go into the plant and help commercialize it, but we talk the language of business. So whereas some scientists, and this is an issue throughout the industry and others as well, is that scientists will start talking very sciencey. So you ask them a question and they start referring to things like pH and water activity and double bonds and all sorts of scary things that people either get really big eyes or kind of go to sleep. It's our two reactions that we get. That's our signal to go stop there. And really what we need to do is state what we're trying to say in the needs of the business. And so that's what we do. So that's what I learned to do through the 20 some years at both small and multinational corporations, is that you have to put it in the needs of the business and how it impacts the business, whether it's cost savings or whether it's profit producing. What is that product? What's the goal around it? What's the intent of the project if we're looking at just improving something, or if we're going for a whole new line of items? And so what are the risks around that? What are the competitive pieces around that? What are the cost structures that we're concerned about? Right now, we're getting into a lot of low sugar products, which is awesome. But it also means that some of those ingredients are becoming very hard to get. So unless you have contracts with some of them already, you're probably not going to get that ingredient for the next year and a half. So if you're somebody new coming in thinking, I want to create this, low sugar product to compete what's out there, because I think I can do better, that's great. But unless you already have a whole lot of very big orders and you can get contracts, you probably won't be able to get your product on the shelf for the next couple of years. So we know all those pieces and we can talk through all of that and we can talk about it in a way that really reflects on how your business works and how it's going to impact your business based on what that product line and that development is going to do for you.
I mean, this is just fascinating, and it resonates. It's familiar to me when I think about you and I are both colleagues with Holly Farty, who's a managing partner and co-founder of ProCFO Partners. And so much of what you're saying, this sort of immersion, is very much a part of how they like to work and how I imagine they've worked with you. But I'm wondering, before I kind of investigate that a little bit, I know something about what common characteristics we share when we're founders, when we're business owners. What kind of leader are you? Are you a visionary and a creative? Are you a hands-on tactician? Are you surround myself with people so that I can just focus on the relationships? Or what do you what's kind of your sweet spot, and what do you love to spend your time in as the owner, as the founder, as the leader, as the chief candy scientist?
What I really love, where my passion lies, is really that big thinking. I'm told I'm actually beyond the stars and somewhere out in the stratosphere when I start thinking and doing creative stuff, is what one executive coach told me. So she said, you need to, let your team know what you need done. And then you go back up in the stars, because when you come back down, you're like really overbearing sometimes. So let them do what they need to do. And you go back up in outer space where there's no oxygen, but somehow you breathe better out there. So that's really where I'm at. And here's an instance of that. One piece that I'm focusing on, along with the the food development, which is our core piece, is that when we look at candy technology, it's really quite fascinating in its capabilities. And I truly believe we can transfer that, as we already have in vitamin gummies and such, and actually take that much further and go into pharmaceutical. So we lose, for instance, over 200,000 kids die each year to tuberculosis. And tuberculosis is something we know how to treat. But it is taking so many pills for so long, you're taking over 4 pills a day for over 6 months, that kids just stop taking them. And it's deadly when you do that. Either they die of the tuberculosis, or it actually changes into a resistant form in which the treatment becomes much, much more difficult. We can take that medication and put it into a gummy. And now you have a treatment where they're not taking pills, where the cure is not scarier, because taking pills is really scary when you're little, right? And up through teenage years. I mean, I know a lot of teenagers that are going, nope, I'm not taking that. Give me the liquid Tylenol. So we can actually transform how we do healthcare and take the scary out of medication. And I believe we can do this for HIV drugs, really the big 5 that kill so many little kids, whether it's it's diarrhea, malaria, HIV, tuberculosis, all these pieces that are killing small kids and up through teenagers it just doesn't need to. We also know that people over 70 start losing the ability to swallow. So when we look at elder care, there's a lot of issues with being able to take drugs and such and stay on the rhythm of it. So putting things, whether it's in a gummy format or a caramel or a soft fruit chew or chocolate, are all things that we can do and get medications in to make them much easier to take, less scary to take. There's lots of things that you're supposed to take with food anyway. So this gives you something in your stomach on that. So these are the visions and places that I expect us to go. So when you ask where I am as a leader, that's really what it is I'm looking for what's next, how we can take what we know and really build a better world. And that's really where my passion lies, is taking the technology that exists and looking at it going, a gummy piece, if we do this right, can withstand the heat of African nations that, sub-Saharan and such, that may be really high in temperatures and, average 120 degrees a day. And in Siberia, where we have other hot spots. And so throughout the world, there's some pieces that we can do that would be stable across those. And I think that's really some of the exciting vision stuff that we have that we're constantly playing with and testing behind the scenes, along with doing other projects.
That is really innovative. And it's not what comes to mind when we start a conversation about a champion of 8-year-olds and candy scientists, and it's incredibly admirable, and it is the stuff of the required stuff of Head in the Stars, because you don't get to think like that if you are dealing in the nitty gritty, which kind of brings me to a better understanding of your company. The nitty gritty, if we're thinking about, the details and the fine strokes and the financial functions of a company like yours with so many interesting aspects to it and so many, I imagine, complexities in some ways. What made you think that you needed a CFO? What were you doing before that? Did you reach some sort of pain point or some sort of, this is ridiculous, we cannot sustain this? Or tell me what that process was like, where we thought we need somebody to come in here and help us not just mind the books, but have a vision like we have around our financial functions.
Yeah, so there was a pain point, and it was really around understanding growth strategy, because I was adamant in my pre-ownership ignorance of what it is to own a company that you could just grow linearly. I'm not going to be, it's not my intent to grow fast and furiously because I'm not looking to sell the company and then do something else. This is my life. This is what I love to do. So I'm not looking for that exit plan. So I'm just going to grow like this. Well, turns out doesn't work. As much as you're I'm going to do it differently, the reality is things just don't align that way. So what I looked at and what I finally decided is I was in a small lab, and I knew I needed a bigger lab. One, just we had space, but 2, so we could bring in more equipment. We're very asset heavy, which is the intent. So that way companies can come in. We have clients come in and work with us on the equipment, because candy equipment is very specific. But really, I got to a point when I got to a new lab of, okay, so how do we figure this out now? What's the right thing to do first or second? Should we be building out? Should we be buying equipment? What should we start with? How should we go about some of these pieces? And I was stuck. I can look at all my reports, like here's my profit and loss, here's my balance sheet. It's not giving me anything on how to make decisions. And that was really the point that hit me. It's like, I need somebody that isn't just looking at the numbers with me, but is looking at those and teaching me, or at least working through it with me on how do I make decisions based on what I'm seeing here and based on what we know. If I say, here's the data that we have from QuickBooks, whatever that does, and here's our SWOT analysis, how do we put those together to make good decisions for the company? And that's really where I was stuck. And I thought, I need a CFO. After working, in corporate life, you see where the benefit of having somebody that thinks strategically, financially about how to move the company forward and ask the right questions of, what is that return on asset? How can we look at things differently? How could we purchase it differently? So I was looking at some pieces of equipment going, okay, can I afford that now or not? And when Halle came in, she said, well, let's rent it, or let's lease, and let's do a lease to buy term, or let's do this. And I'm going, I don't know what that is, but cool. And little did I know there's these things that, different ways to do stuff. And I'm thinking, well, if I have the cash, then I buy it. If I don't, then I don't. And it holds. And she's saying, no, you need to do the project, and, you need to have the stuff there so you can do these projects. So let's get an equipment lease set up. That's a lease to buy, and we'll set things up that way. And so there are numerous things like that where there's just a financial acumen that I didn't have when it came to owning my own business. Again, I was, director and executive levels at some big companies for the R&D teams. And so I had P&L under me and such, but that's not quite the same, even though we were, it came up with strategy plans and such, and 5-year strategy plans. It's not quite the same as when you own your own business and that cash is like, okay, it's really, truly limited. Where is it going? Because the equipment is costly. So where's the right pieces? When do you do that? When do you build out? When do you decide it's time for a partnership or looking at who you can partner with on different projects or different ideas, such as, pharma stuffs, like who will what I need to get in there. And Halle has done an awesome job finding me people. So whether it's when I needed a new lawyer, she found me that. When I was looking at potentially doing an acquisition and buying another similar type company that would have additional equipment that I'd be able to immediately use, she found me someone that really knew how to look at acquisitions and look at the financial piece on whether that made sense or not. So kind of across the board, the CFO position not only helped me with that financial side that I knew I needed, which was how do I make decisions based off of here's my stuff, here's my reports. I'm staring at reports and still not knowing what to do with them in terms of making decisions for my company, to helping me find people to really make sure that the company was going the right way and that I could keep making decisions, as things occur. So through the pandemic, it was just a lifesaver. Because Halle just really helped, across the board with keep the cash, don't pay off your credit cards, because I was a big one of pay everything off. She's like, no, we don't. Let's get the line of credit. Let's manage the credit cards. Let's do these things so you maintain cash so you can get through this, because we don't really know how long it's going to be, which of course we didn't. So all those pieces is really what she's brought, which I know is bigger answer than what you asked me for. But the reality piece is that I knew there was a financial acumen that I didn't have that came to how do I make decisions about some of these things? And I need somebody that not only can help point me there, but can hear my thoughts and then pull those out from, where there's no oxygen and help me bring them down to earth and get there.
So you had a lot of content. We talk about this a lot. And it was the context. What does it all mean? What should I do with all this information?
Exactly.
What information is the most valuable? What information should I be focusing on? Or what information do I not have that I need more of? That was helpful. Did you consider a full-time hire? Was it that you met Halle and that's what inspired you to kind of go the part-time CFO route? Or was that a calculated decision from your perspective?
That was a calculated decision. When I looked at some of the other pieces that I have with part-time, with the lawyer and the way that works. And I have engineers on that kind of contract. I have additional scientists, so we have a lot more bandwidth with scientists. And so I wanted to do the same thing with the CFO, at least to start, get a feel for how much do we need? And then if it becomes a full-time thing, okay, I need to understand what that would look like. But I knew there were some pieces where it was a matter of look at this and just help me talk through that, and see if you can help give me that direction. But I didn't feel like I was big enough to have a full-time CFO, and I wasn't, and I'm not. And that works just fine. So it's great because I get the hours I need with Hallie. I get the insights I need from her. We have all the discussions we need, and I'm not trying to maintain, yet another role, especially during pandemics and stuff like that. And it also gives me the opportunity then to make those full-time positions more scientists when I need them.
I think Hallie is some kind of genius. She thinks about money the way you think about candy. I mean, she can make these connections like she was thinking about it for a week before she even met you. And I think that that's really an admirable characteristic for her, and a really necessary one for a strategic sort of financial, I want to say visionary in her own right. She can see where the problems are. How has her unique skill set, what value has she delivered that you feel like, this is way beyond what I thought I was going to get. This is way beyond somebody who just sort of showed me the moves. This is something different on a different, there's an X component here that has really helped me. Have you experienced some of that?
Definitely. Honestly, from the first time we met, and she came in, and within the first hour, she's showing us stuff that I'm going, yes, that. And really what she does that I found fantastic is when she looks at the flywheels that she's created, right, with the financial flywheels and where they all go and how they interconnect. I think that was key for me, because so many times you talk to CFOs and you see all these reports and they're just kind of stacked on top of each other, right? Here's your balance sheet, here's your cash flow statement, here's your profit and loss. And you look at them as these separate entities. And then marketing's over here and it fits in the profit and loss. And here's your cost of goods, and that's over here. But there's an interconnectedness to all of this, right? It's how you run a business requires all these things. And that's what she brings together, is that she actually starts making them all move. So they're not static pieces of information. They're all moving and changing at any given point, and they all interact with each other. And that's what she teaches and really brings to light, is that interaction and that's where you can look at it and go, okay, here's why we should rent or lease equipment, because it's going to impact the profit and loss this way, and it's going to impact the balance sheet this way. And this is really good because our credit score goes up here, and this adds this, and this gives us more buffer room should we need that. Let's do it now before we need it. Let's set this up because we want to grow and we want to build out and we want to do these things. So let's set ourselves up over here. And because there's such a dance between all those things, that's what she brings. So going from very flat pieces of paper that are independent of each other, and you're trying to scratch your head going, so what is it telling me, to having these things get up and turn and move around each other and interact with each other. And you can visualize that because of the way Hallie speaks, and she makes that dance happen, is really what I found super enlightening. It's like, and that's how you read these things and understand how you make decisions around them, because these are shifting, moving, living pieces of information that you might have, it might be one snapshot or whatever, but then you get another one, and you get another one, and you look at these other reports in different ways, and you look at marketing, and you look at the R&D side of it, and you look at the ingredient side of it, and all those things coming in, and which pieces are risks and which ones are benefits, and all those pieces start all making sense because they start talking together and within each other. And she does that extremely well, better than any CFO that I've ever worked with, actually.
It sounds like you've enjoyed the unique, I don't know, I want to say juxtaposition of as a strategic visionary, as a CEO, being able to offload some of the sort of mental bandwidth that was required for you to be, hands-on in this stuff that let somebody else do it, yet be invigorated and energized around the possibilities and capabilities of what you really could be doing when you do get involved and when you do see what's happening. Do you feel like, I I don't know, somebody out there is wherever you were, somebody out there is asking questions and doing Google searches and trying to figure out what the answer is. Do you have any advice for that founder or that executive or that leader who's trying to figure out, should I be hiring a full-time? Should I be looking for a part-time? Do I even need a CFO? Should I just be reading another book or two and watching some YouTube videos to master this on my own? What guidance do you have for some of those business leaders?
Get a part-time CFO now, immediately. Let yourself sleep at night. Get rid of some of the stress, survive a pandemic, all these things because you have a CFO on your side. Honestly, if I would have known, like I knew eventually it's like someday I'll have that to help me, think strategy. If I would have had it before, I could only imagine, I don't know that I would have made decisions differently, but I could have made them faster and I would have been more content with them. Early on, there were things I'm like, Hallie, I decided to do this and I'm not sure if it's right. But maybe this. And she said, Michelle, let me stop you and say this. It was right. Let that one go. The stress of that one is done. Move forward. I guarantee you it was right. Let's go. And it was just these big relief things that I didn't realize how much some of those things that I had already done. Usually I always thought, I make a decision and I go forward. I don't keep clinging back. And I found that as a founder, I actually did. It's like, there's, everything is on my shoulders here. And so you do keep rethinking, was that the right thing? Should I have done this instead? Can I get back out of it? What do I do? Should I go forward? Should I stay here? And she just did an awesome job of just taking away that weight. And so I'd say as a founder, the earlier you can bring that in just to help you think through that and feel good about what you're doing, in terms of the way you're making choices, because you have the visions and your product or what you're selling, and it's like, yay for that. But the how and that financial piece of making it successful, making it sustainable is the part that you can get really nervous about. And she just took that away. So not only to help me figure out what those pieces were that I was going to, but just that sense of calm and security of, yes, I made the right decisions because Holly said I did, and she's really smart. So done has been really just fantastic. And I would absolutely, if I was talking to myself 7 years ago, I'd put that on my list of find lab, find CFO, and, possibly switch the two.
Wow. Michelle Frame from Victus Rs. She's at victusrs.com, and such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing so much about your business, letting us kind of peek inside what is a fascinating situation. I've never thought of a candy scientist, and I'm questioning my own career path at this point. And it's been such an interesting and energizing conversation for me to learn more about you and your path and your trajectory to success, moving away from that linear to really, I think, kind of, as you say, heading to the stars sort of trajectory. Good for you. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Thanks so much, Chris. It was good fun. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Visit ProCFOPartners.com for more strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help you put your business's financial picture in context.